Hi guys, just a quick note on the quadratic formula, also known as the minus b formula. The quadratic formula is another way of working out values of a quadratic equation when you can't use the null factor law by factorising, or you may not want to use completing the square. So it's again for quadratic equations, so consider a quadratic equation in the form ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0, for a being non-zero. So you don't want your a value to be a 0, because then that would no longer be a quadratic. So the reason that we come up with the quadratic formula is by using the completing the square method for that particular quadratic equation. So ax squared plus bx is equal to, you bring your constant over to the right hand side, negative c, and then you're going to divide by your a, your coefficient of the x squared, so that it just ends up with being a 1 in front of the x squared. So you divide the whole equation by a, so x squared plus b divided by a, x is equal to negative c over a. And then completing the square, you take half the middle term, so b over 2a, and you square it and add it to both sides. So when you get b over 2a, that's dividing it by 2, halving it, and when you square it, you get b squared over 4a squared, and you add that to both sides. Okay, so now these three terms here are my binomial. So the half term was b over 2a, so that's that one there, and I'm going to add that to x and get the squared, so the x squared is going to give me this one, and the b over 2a will give me my middle term and my squared term when I've multiplied it out using FOIL. So then on this side I've got 4 over ac divided by 4a squared, so I am adding fractions here. So I want the same denominator. So I've changed the 4a squared to a 4a squared on both fractions. And then what I've done to the bottom I had to do to the top. So this became 4ac, and what I'd done to the bottom here I had to do to the top here, which was no change. So then I'm doing I can add these fractions and I get b squared minus 4ac all over 4a squared. And then I can square root both sides. So I'll get, missing a line here, so I'll just write it in if you want. So it's going to be x plus b over 2a is equal to plus or minus the square root of all of this. And then the square root of all of that, when I bring over the minus b to a, it's going to work out like this. So we don't actually need to know this, but I just wanted to explain where it came from. That's where the minus b formula came from. So when you've just got your letters and your quadratic equation, this one here, and you use the completing the square. Okay, now let's start the learning. So use the quadratic formula to solve x squared plus 7x plus 6 is equal to 0. So I'm going to be using this as my quadratic formula. And in order to do that, I need to work out and identify my a, b's and c's. These ones here. So I'm going to write down that a is equal to 1, b is equal to 7, and c is equal to 6. And now I can plug them into this formula and work it out for x. So x is equal to, x is equal to negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, and I'm going to plug in my values. So I'm going to quickly just go back and check my values, fix up this x. So 1, 7 and 6. So I'll just rewrite them out here again. So a is equal to 1, b is equal to 7, and c is equal to 6. And then I'm just going to plug them into my equation. So x is equal to minus 7 plus or minus the square root of 7 squared minus 4, 1, 6 all over 2, 1. So x is equal to, just going to pop this in my calculator. So minus 7 plus or minus the square root of 25 all over 2. So x is equal to minus 7 plus 5 over 2, or x is equal to minus 7 minus 5 over 2. So x is equal to minus 7 plus 5 is negative 2, divided by 2 is negative 1, or minus 7 minus 5 is equal to negative 12, divided by 2 is equal to negative 6. So x is equal to negative 6. And there's my two solutions for my x, for my quadratic. Another example, identify my a, b, and c. Again, it doesn't matter what the variable is that you're looking for, you just replace the x with the m. So my a is equal to 2 this time, my b is equal to 1, and my c is equal to negative 10. Please watch out for your negative signs. And then I'm going to write them out. So 2, 1, and negative 10. So just bear with me a second. I'm going to write out my formula. So m is equal to negative b, and that's the reason that it's called a minus b formula, because you lead with a negative b, plus or minus b squared minus 4ac, all over 2a, and I have to plug in what I know. So my a was 2, 1, and negative 10. So m is equal to, I'll write them up. So a is equal to 2, b is equal to 1, and c is equal to negative 10. So minus b is minus 1, plus or minus 1 squared, minus 4 on 2 on negative 10, all over 2 on 2. So m is equal to, so minus 1 plus or minus, when you solve what's underneath the root, you get 81, all over 4. So m is equal to negative 1 plus 9 over 4, or m is equal to negative 1 minus 9 over 4. So m is equal to, in this situation, 2, and m is equal to negative 10 over 4. We can leave it as a fraction. Okay, so just a quick note on the discriminant, and the discriminant is this here. So it's the portion of the quadratic formula that's underneath the square root, so the b squared minus 4ac. And using the discriminant, we can decide what our equation's solutions are going to be. Okay, so knowing a quadratic, we know that it's a parabola, and I can have different versions of that parabola. So I can have this one here, I can have this one here, and I can have this one here. So I know that my y is equal to x squared should look like this, and that's y is equal to x squared where it goes through the origin. So at that point there, it's not very well drawn, sorry guys. But y is equal to x squared should go through the origin, and it's just a normal parabola, like so. Okay, so then any of these are different variations of a quadratic equation. And this one has two real solutions, so I'll just show you what I'm talking about. These ones here, where they cut the x-axis. This one here is one real solution, often repeated, because it cuts the x-axis once. And this one doesn't cut the x-axis at all, so it has no real solutions. When it has no real solutions, the number inside the square root is negative, and we can't do a square root of a negative number, so that's why it's a non-real solution. When the number in between the square root is a 0, then it's one real solution, because I only have plus and minus of the 0, which means I don't have two different two different variations. And when it's positive, I will have two different variations, because I'll have the plus version and the minus version. And that's pretty much all you need to know with the quadratic formula. And then it's just a matter of answering some questions and practicing it. Watch out for your negative numbers, they're really, really important, especially at this section here. Okay, thanks guys.